what were they censured for?
Well, they're censured basically for taking a drug that was approved for one function and then utilizing it for another, and then, of course, causing adverse side effects and ineffectual treatment.
Okay. Botox is creating serious side effects for spasmodic dysphonia. I see that in the office. I get email. It does not appear from my reading of the literature to appear there. And the organization that McAllister belongs to, the NSDA, does not report these serious side effects that I know of, but that I'm reporting.
Actually, they say the side effects are short-lived because Botox wears off.
I know what they're saying, right.
Well, is that true?
Not from my experience.
That they just wear off and the patient never has any further side effects?
Well, if you don't get the literature to tell you what's going on, you have to get it from another source, that's clinical activity, where I see these patients as they're emailing me and calling me and telling me there's serious side effects, and I see these people from all walks of life. They're the top executives and top companies. They're medics, they're lawyers, they're doctors, PhDs. I'm seeing a wide spectrum. The question I ask myself is, what I'm seeing contained only in a small group, or is this worldwide, but it's not being reported in the literature? And I hope that I'm wrong in believing that it's a problem worldwide, but it's not being reported. There are serious reasons for it not being reported, but I wanted to get to other issues. What is your issue? You have some issue on the table.
Well, I mean, I think the thing we're talking about in the show today is this: the notion is, can you double dip? Can science be compromised? Mm-hmm. Is science basically in medicine for sale? Mm-hmm. I think that's a legitimate question. That the role and the influence, the tentacles reaching into publicly traded corporations, whose really major emphasis is shareholders for earnings on a quarterly basis. If they lose their approval of these drugs, or they don't obtain approval, their stocks usually plummet. We saw that happen with Imclone Systems. Martha Stewart may go to jail as a result of it. The founder, Sam Waxel, is already in jail. I think it's a legitimate question that people have. Can the National Institutes of Health, with a high degree of confidence, be free from the kind of influence peddling that goes on with in American enterprise?
No, I think that these compromises are an integral part of the American scene. I think it's not just now as though it's new. I think it's been existing, but we don't report it. There's another attribute that's going on. That's my take on it. Christy Ludlow is in my field, or I'm in her field. She runs the National Institute of Health's Voice and Speech section.
Neurology.
Neurology.
Yeah.
And Christy is of the view that most voice problems are due to neurological problems. I have written extensively saying that's not so. It's due to functional misuse. You're talking wrong and you don't know it, and that's why you're having a problem with your voice. But Christy is of the view, and she recently in March, I think 8th, in Washington, D.C., 2003, ran a presentation sponsored by Allergan, the maker of Botox. And she declined to allow me to present cures, and she told you what when you asked why I wasn't on the program?
Well, she said she's known you for many years, and she said you have nothing new to report. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, but he's reporting cures of a condition that you're reporting is incurable. I mean, isn't that an astounding
accomplishment? The whole field says it's incurable.
Isn't that an amazing accomplishment? And wouldn't you like to disseminate that information, at this meeting?
What is the basis for her denial of my presence at this meeting? Allergan sponsored.
Well, she told me, she says that Dr. Cooper does not have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials.
What is that?
Well, that's what they subject a drug to when they're seeking approval.
When it's a medical problem.
A medical problem with, or using a pharmaceutical product.
And what's my answer to Christy Ludlow?
Well, you always say that, Christy, this is not a medical treatment.
It's not a medical problem.
It's not a medical problem. I don't do a medical treatment. I'm not required to do phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3.
That's right. And I'm reporting cures. I'm the only one in the country, in the world, reporting ongoing cures of spasmodic dysphonia for over 30 years. Now, what's at issue here? The people involved in the paradigm that strangled voice is a medical problem, a neurological problem, began in 1960 with Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore. My position is that it is not a medical position or a medical problem because I cannot cure a medical problem. I cannot talk a patient out of a medical problem. They're calling it a dystonia, which means it's a neurological problem. I'm saying the problem is caused by misuse and wrong use of the voice, and that it's curable. And I've been reporting these cures involving UCLA Medical Center, patients diagnosed there. 15 cases over a period of almost 30 years have been cured, recovered from spasmodic dysphonia. That's only one prestigious, well-known medical center where I used to be a clinical professor.
Okay, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I want to bring to the audience attention a classical piece of research. You know, we don't have to show it right now, but it's called the laryngoscope, by the study of spastic dysphonia by Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore in 1960. In the conclusion, the bottom line of the article is that they state categorically and emphatically that spastic dysphonia has a neurological basis. One sentence later, they make this statement, and this is your key, and why it's reasonable for people to listen to your point of view. It cannot be stated that the neurologic and electroencephalographic abnormalities related to voice disturbances as a cause and an effect. What they're saying basically is that their inference from this article, on the basis it completely turned your field upside down and changed the paradigm into a neurologic one.
From a psychiatric
They're
one.
saying, the authors have said categorically that you cannot infer cause and effect, which is what you've been saying for a long time, that they're treating a symptom, they're not treating the cause, they're treating an effect, basically, which is that if they get an abnormal brain pattern, if they get an abnormal oscilloscope, whatever the reaction is, extra vibration, extra spasming, that is an effect, not a cause. The cause is muscular, it's a mechanical breakdown, it's due to wear and tear, it's not due to a neurological basis. That's not, the cause is mechanical breakdown. That's what you've been saying for the last 40 years.
But they're not saying that.
And they are saying in this that we cannot determine in their research, which was definitive research, that any inferences of neurological disturbances, they cannot say that one is a cause and one is the effect.
They're saying there's a spiking in one of the lobes of the brain.
But they're not saying whether it's a cause or an effect.
That's correct. Now, what is the next statement they made, if you would read that they're saying that they are not opposed to psychiatric care?
This is an interesting statement here in the same article.
Yeah.
The authors do not mean to imply that there are no psychiatric abnormalities in spastic dysphonia, or that psychotherapy does not have its place in treatment. Now, you've been curing patients for 35 years.
No, 30 plus years.
Okay. How much psychotherapy do you do with your patients?
The only psychotherapy is the voice image and voice identity, which I say is the psychological and emotional attribute, because they have an idea of voice use which is incorrect, which is setting up the spasmodic dysphonia. All spasmodic dysphonia, all strangled voice is in the lower throat, all of it. Gerald Burke at UCLA expresses the medical view, saying it's a dystonia, a focal laryngeal dystonia. I'm saying it can't be a dystonia because I can change it very quickly in the overwhelming number of cases, over 90% of the time, taking it from the lower throat and putting it up in the face where all good and great voices are. So I'm saying their concept is off the board. The paradigm is wrong.
Well, they're saying that their paradigm, the Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore, which is what really is mirrored in today's literature, is that spasmodic dysphonia is a neurological condition. It's an intractable condition, that it's an incurable condition, that nothing can be done. Now, if that were true, if it is in fact a dystonia, and the neurological conditions cannot be reversed, and you are not a neurologist, are you?
No, not that I know of.
Then how is it that you're able to get results from these patients?
Because the problem is not a neurological problem. That's the whole point I'm making. I seem to be the only one in the world arguing the issue that this condition, spasmodic dysphonia, is not a neurological problem. It's not a medical problem. It's not a dystonia. It's not essentially a psychiatric problem. You can get psychiatric problems stemming from, hey, you're talking like that. And we have people like Robert Kennedy Jr. You're talking like this. I listen to him, and if you don't get psychiatric problems out of that, I'd be surprised. Diane Rehm has it. But I have another take on it.
But psychiatric problems are an effect. That is, they're a symptom of a problem of mechanical breakdown, which is a person's using their voice incorrectly and wearing the voice out, essentially. They're wearing it out as long as... You've sometimes said, it's like wearing the wrong kind of shoe.
On the wrong foot backwards.
Okay, but I mean, you've said that if you wear the wrong type of shoe, the average person will get a callus or something, right?
Right.
It's going to build up on their foot.
Right.
You get the right kind of shoe, the callus goes away.
Right. You don't need surgery. That's right.
You don't need surgery for that.
No.
You don't need to have your leg amputated.
No. But if you have a strangled voice, talk like this, and you're convinced by the medical community or colleagues in my field that it's a hopeless, incurable condition, and the only answer is Botox, I wish you well, and I say to patients, try Botox, my friend, and see if it works for you. If it works for you, I am delighted. But I'm getting the cases that are saying it doesn't work, or if it does work, they still want out. They're afraid of the long-term downside effects. And I'm not finding the statistic that I've heard medics tell patients it's 99% effective, safe and effective. From the outcome, the Botox voice is not effective, and it's not safe from what the patients are telling me.
Yeah, I think
there's a different view. They have one paradigm, I have another finding.
Yeah, the patients who are, people out there, maybe, you're listening, you have a voice problem of one kind or another, maybe you have no voice problem. You don't have to trust what Dr. Cooper is saying, because what you need to do is just contact the National Spasmodic Dysphonic Association and ask to talk with Dot Sowerby. Dot's the president of the organization. This is the main advocacy group for spasmodic dysphonia in the country. And she is painfully disabled and afflicted with spasmodic dysphonia and has received repetitive Botox injections. She is a perfect example of how Botox is a failure in the treatment of spasmodic dysphonia, and yet the medical profession, and in fact, even when presented with contrary evidence, in other words, a patient being cured, we know this about Norman Hokikian at the University of Michigan. His patient presented back, Kim Engstrom, cured of spasmodic dysphonia. What did he want to do? He wanted to give her another Botox shot because he was going to treat the underlying, as you call it, the substrata. It's really the neurological condition.
And he's saying I treated the functional. Well, I can accept his position because it's a medical position. It's the position held in the field that spasmodic dysphonia is a neurological problem. The psychiatric problem or condition or paradigm was held for 90 years. It still prevails. From 1871, when Trow first described spasmodic dysphonia as nervous hoarseness. And it still prevails today, but I don't read anywhere that they have a single cure anywhere since 1871 of this condition called strangled voice. We have 1 minute left, Dr.
Well, why are cures such a dirty word in the field? I mean, we're talking about the bottom line here. Let's think about why is a cure a dirty word?
Because it upsets the apple cart, the paradigm, the ongoing treatment of spasmodic dysphonia, 4 to 10 Botox shots a year, surgical procedures,
$2,000 a shot.
And no cure. Chronicity means ongoing for life. So I think the paradigm that they have and the paradigm that I have is worlds apart. They don't have a single cure, and I have ongoing.
Are you pleased when your patients finish your treatment and never have to return back to pay
I'm
you?
Delighted.
To never pay you one extra nickel?
I am delighted. Gail Pace at UCLA diagnosed with ST, 13 years cured. Reverend James Johnson of the Mayo
Does that
Clinic
bother you that they don't have to come back for
I'm
ongoing
delighted. I
treatment for a
talked with
lifetime?
them. I think it's the cat's meow. It's a godsend.
Okay, when they don't come back for treatment, right?
Yes, when they don't come back.
And if you sit in your office just typing away and writing or whatever, that's okay with you, right?
That's fine with me. Thank you, folks, for joining with me. I'm reporting cures. The bottom line, there is a cure.
But see, this is what I don't get. Why is it that the other professions, they have to get the patients coming back? You're content to sit in an empty room
I'm more than
doing
content.
your typing.
I'm delighted.
I'm
delighted. But that's what medicine is about.
They're not content.
They
need the person to come back for the shots.
That is what the Hippocratic Oath is about. Do no harm in natural healing.
But that's not
and
practical
that's why
medicine,
the physicians have gone into the field to help patients. I do not understand why they are taking the position that this condition, which is cured, which they know, I report at medical meetings,